Hi, everyone. It was my great pleasure and extreme privilege to be a close friend of Chip Hankins. I'm going to miss him very much. Like me, I'm sure all of you who knew Chip felt close to him. It was almost impossible to know Chip and not create a special place for him in your heart. Amanda and I and Flip and Greg were the first to be married by Chip, the mail-away minister. And while we had ulterior motives for getting hitched, other couples whose primary motivation was true love also selected Chip to help them plan and celebrate their weddings and help them write and exchange their vows of love. I lost count, but I believe Chip went on to marry over a dozen, 20. Okay, so how many here were married by Chip Hankins? Okay, you're looking at about half of them, I think, or less. So how cool is that? So I'd like to share with you some other favorite memories, impressions of my great friend, our dear friend Chip. If I had to summarize my impression of Chip when I first met him, I'd say that Chip was vivid. His blonde hair stuck out in all directions. He had an electric, devious smile, and that laugh, a full body laugh. Chip would slap his thigh and tilt his head back and let the laughter tumble out of him, as if it was always inside, just waiting for him to crack a smile so it could roll out. I got to know Chip best when we both worked as bellboys on Nantucket in the summer, a dream job he lined up for me. And that's when I learned about his true warmth and charm. Chip checked in guests like a true Eagle Scout, always lending a helpful hand with a smile and providing unsolicited but highly appreciated directions and guidance. Except now for his efforts, he was earning cash instead of merit badges. Chip always brought home more tips than any of us. Much of this advantage came from his unique ability to get tips from women. None of the rest of us could figure out how to do that. I simply gave up trying to compete, and I just admired his craftsmanship. Chip was creative and unorthodox. Just look at the photos of him and the suits that he wore and the way he dressed all the time. My most interesting and strangest voicemails and emails always came from Chip. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? He introduced me to more new music, new food, new friends than anyone else I've ever known. He played tennis, soccer, foosball, and beer pong in an unorthodox, hyper-creative fashion, always doing the unexpected and sometimes the unexplainable. When his soccer accident made one leg shorter, Chip turned this into an advantage. His play became lopsided, and he could put more English on the ball than you thought possible. More than once when I was playing tennis with Chip, he would hit a ball to my side of the net, and it would spin back to his side before I could touch it. Chip's many skills and his approach to life are summed up well in one of his favorite sayings: always forward, never straight. In Chip's presence, inanimate objects and ordinary animals and people became legendary. Chip's beat-up Plymouth was known and feared as the Beast. The VW hatchback that pluckily crisscrossed New Hampshire and Nantucket with a dozen extra keys handed out indiscriminately to fraternity brothers was the Blue Pig. His drafty, frigid cabin in Hanover was widely known as the Homestead. There, we all huddled around a halogen heater from Sears, our very lives depending on this glowing space-age orb which Chip dubbed HAL, as from the Space Odyssey 2001. In California, he bought the cabin in Tahoe with no plumbing that Amanda mentioned. And what I remember is that the gas station at the turnoff, which was called Tinker Station, soon became much better known as Tinkle Station. An ordinary house cat named Beans miraculously escapes a house fire and with singed ears becomes known far and wide as refried Beans. A Jack Russell we all know and loved becomes Zippy the Wonder Dog, and the head of a lineage of other amazing wonder dogs. Philippa Jones from New Zealand becomes the beloved Pip, and the legend grew. She raised our cat Paris from the dead, and she brought about small miracles among animals and people on a regular basis. In Chip and Philippa's presence, Jasper, Cameron, and everyone's children became powerful, almost superhuman abilities to ride big horses, heal small animals, do amazing deeds, and think great thoughts. For our kids, a visit to Chip and his family was always an adventure, to be anticipated beforehand and savored afterwards. Now, following up on Amanda's thing, for those of you who want the explanation, this thing is to help you find your friends and loved ones when you're in a crowd. So for those of you who were wondering about this, I highly recommend you try it. And it's a way that you can find it works amazingly well. And I suggest when you do it, remember Chip, who was unparalleled in helping dear friends find each other and come together within a warm and friendly crowd. Looking back on my life with Chip, I'm struck at how he was a paradox. He was an Eagle Scout looking for trouble. He was a social extrovert that lived in woody cabins. A preacher with questionable morals. A vegetarian cattleman. A family man that would party into the wee hours. And then a teetotaling, tea-drinking owner of a New Zealand pub. Chip was a fiercely independent person who genuinely appreciated and cared about nearly everyone he met, and who dearly loved and needed those closest to him. Chip embraced life more fully than anyone I knew, and then he let life go more dramatically than I could ever possibly imagine. No matter how much time I spend thinking about it, I still don't know why Chip left us. I know I'm devastated by the loss. I lost someone I treasured immensely, a source of joy and enlightenment, an example to follow, a true friend. I hope that sharing our memories of Chip will help us all move past questioning and mourning his death, and move toward remembering and celebrating the life of this great individual who was vivid, warm, unorthodox, legendary, and paradoxical. I hope you all join me in remembering Chip and saying, thank you, Chip. We all loved you, remember you. Let's all stay connected. Thank you.